I call the meeting to order for, I don't even know what today is.
May 2nd.
May the 2nd. If everyone would please stand for the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance.
Can we start a meeting without a gavel? Is that legal?
That,
All right, just checking. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. God, thank you for how you continue to bless us and keep us. God, we know this is a day we have not seen before, but God, we thank you, God, how you have brought us through this day and allow us to come here, Lord, to do your business for this community. I ask you to bless each and every one of our council persons that are present. Be with them, be with their families. Guide them and keep them. Keep them safe, keep them humble, and keep them in a spirit of wanting to do the things that are pleasing in thy sight. We ask you to bless all of our staff and all the persons who work with our city. Bless our mayor, bless his family. We ask you to bless our government, Lord, and bless us as on tomorrow we go through another election cycle. Help us as we choose and make choices that we understand that you are still in control no matter who gets elected. So help us all still come together as a community. Bless all of our first responders. Be with them. Continue to guide them. Watch over them. Keep them safe. We ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Sostovny. Here. Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Gill. Here. Council President Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
Present.
Let the record reflect 7 are present, 2 are absent.
And Mr. White texted and indicated that he is stuck in court but will be late. He will be here as soon as he can. Ms. Yan is not present. She had a medical emergency and could not be with us tonight. We have minutes to be approved. Workshop minutes from April the 18th.
Make a motion to approve the workshop minutes of April 18th, 2016.
Second. Motion and a second. Anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Minutes from April the 18th, regular proceedings.
So moved. I make a motion to pass.
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve. Anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the agenda. I am assuming, Mr. Merkley, Ms. Conlon, that we're going to table number 1 again.
Yes.
Then we also need to table number 2, number 3, and number 5, all under unfinished business.
So I make the motion to approve the agenda with change with table and under unfinished business, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 5.
Second. Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Claims to be approved.
Have a few subtractions. On page 6, to Dave Simpson for $10,125.90.
And just so council knows, we're pulling that because it's not here with the contract. The contract says paid sponsorship, and he included in kind. That's his bonus once you reach the 200,000.
I got a call from David about this, and he said that he had talked to finance and he talked to the parks, and that he thought he was following the contract. In your opinion, is he following the contract or not?
Well, I referred him to Scott,
Yes,
so...
Just Heather called me, and Lisa called me Friday over that issue, and I reviewed the contract, including the amendment. It clearly does not follow the contractual language about the 5% bonus or anything up to and past $200,000. It clearly said paid sponsorships. We did the amendment where he gets a 10% commission on in-kind. So there is some sort of in-kind commission he gets. But as far as the bonus for $200,000, clearly it's only for paid sponsorships. I mean, there's no interpretation involved. It's very clear.
Okay,
And,
that's fine. I didn't have a chance to look at the contract. He was just called and said he thought he was following all the rules and he'd like for us to pay for it. And I said, listen, if we're following the contract, absolutely, I'm going to approve the claim, and I'd push for the council to approve the claim. But if our council or finance says no, it's going to be a no, so.
Ms. Connolly, you let the record show that I did consult, like you said, with our attorney, and Heather and I were on conference call with him. And then right after that call, we did consult in person with Mr. Northern, which is the department head, and he was under the full understanding and agreement of what we're doing.
Yes.
So I'd like the record to show that, please.
Also removing on page 7, the claim to the City of Jeffersonville for the transfer of funds of $360,000.
That's for circuit breakers.
Yes. And then back on page 3, in the Finance Department, the ILMCT claim for the annual membership dues, we've got $260 there, but that's being reduced to $120 for a difference of $140.
Heather, what page? I'm sorry.
Page 3.
And what claim was that?
The, in the Finance Department, the last one there for $260,
Okay.
that should be $120. So the difference is $140.
Are those the only changes?
Yes, that
Yeah,
I know
and-
of. I don't know if there's any more.
No, that's all I had. I just didn't have the change in yours, so
Right.
I need the new total, please.
$1,201,120.54.
Make a motion to approve the $1,201,120.54.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Report of the clerk.
I have one quick thing. I did receive last week 2 emails from Jay Ellis. The first one was for the concert in the parks that you all budgeted for, and also to Main Street. I think that's a total of $45,000. I've submitted the claim. And then I received another one from him requesting $2,500 for the Jeff Fest for 2016, and that was not budgeted anywhere, so.
What was that amount, Vicki? The last one?
2,500.
25, thank you.
So we'll need to find that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't even know when it is, or,
Jeff has theirs in June. Yeah. Okay.
so I'll just set it aside and y'all can let me know.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, unfinished business, number 4, Heather Metcalf, a public hearing, 2016 OR 28. Weren't any changes.
No changes. This is for a public hearing also.
This is the public hearing. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on 2016 OR 28. Is anybody here to speak for or against the ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to pass 2016 OR 28 in a third and final reading.
The motion, was there a second? Mr. Maples? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
New business, Les Merkley. An ordinance changing the zoning.
This is an ordinance to rezone property located in Maple and Walnut from neighborhood commercial to R3 Old City Residential. The applicant is Esto 2 LLC, and is there a representative from Esto LLC here?
Okay.
They are wanting, and Nathan is here, maybe he's going to speak on this a little bit better than I can. Yeah. Nathan Pruitt here is Director of Planning and Zoning, maybe can speak to it a little more. I know they're wanting to build with four single-family residences on that block.
So basically, this is cleaning up neighborhood commercial on a corner lot. They're going to demo that structure, and there's another lot behind it that's R3 currently. They've purchased, or they intend to purchase, those R3 lot that wraps around, as well as the neighborhood commercial in the front, and they're just cleaning up the residential map to permit basically the subdivision of 4 lots on those 2, so that they can build 4 what is proposed to be 3-story single-family residential homes for sale. It would not be rent.
And at planning and zoning, they just show the rendering and went through, there was a couple that lived right in proximity of it and had a few questions and opposition, but basically was they're concerned about where the driveway was and seeing the back of their house from the back of his house, which the applicant did address all of that. So other than that, this did come with us with favorable recommendation.
Yes.
In my view, it was a great infill project. I think it's exactly what we wanted to go.
Did you say that it was 4 separate residences?
It will be subdivided into 4 individual lots, which will be sold off individually. So they're actually going to come back to us with the subdivision plat. They've already got approval for the preliminary, and then they'll do one final plat. So you'll have 4 newly created lots for 4 homes.
Cool. This is a public hearing. Do we have a number?
29.
29. Is there anybody here to speak for or against 2016 OR 29? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and have a motion.
Make a motion to approve 2016 OR 29.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve is presented. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. 2016 OR 30. Mr. Pruitt, Mr. Merkley, another ordinance changing the zoning.
This is an application that comes before council for rezoning. It's a favorable recommendation to zone property that is from M2 and C2 to M3, which would be high-density multifamily. The property is situated, if you were looking, if you're on 10th Street, across the street from the Kroger in that area, it's back between Orchard Hills and the Walgreens. There's a large vacant property there, and they are proposing to build high-end multifamily apartments. I know it received favorable recommendation, and I think Nathan can answer more. I don't believe Brandon Denton or someone representing Mr. Denton. I don't believe anyone's here to represent them.
I got a question.
Sure.
Why in something as big as this, important as this, the applicant is not here? You didn't receive word? Nobody knows?
I have not received word. I fully assumed that he would be here. I don't have any word.
Is this also in the corridor that would require a development plan to be approved by the Planning Commission?
10th Street is definitely included in the commercial corridor overlay district to the extent that this extends into that area. I can't exactly place it from memory. I don't know exactly, but they're going to have to come in with a development plan
Okay.
for approval.
From the Planning Commission?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a,
This did come with a favorable recommendation. There was some people that spoke against it, that their concern was mainly the traffic. As you know, it's right around the vicinity of the Orchard Hill Apartments, and there was a lot of concern, getting out right there at Holman's Lane is a task, and they did have, at the planning and zoning, did a traffic study, but I don't think they fully reported on that.
They did not, no. Thompson Lane is obviously going to be open very soon. It's going to be improved. The light's already complete. In the next couple months, I believe, is the deadline or projected opening of the Thompson Lane improvement. So that's going to relieve a lot of the potential congestion, I think, that you could see. Holman's Lane, of course, is going to be improved shortly thereafter. And then, of course, you've got multiple neighborhood exits and other small exits as well. I think there's two other. Can't remember there's one coming next to Walgreens. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe Erin, E-R-N. And then, of course, you can continue behind into North Haven. So you'll have multiple points of exit.
Right. And this is high-end apartments, which is a plus, and which the mayor did speak on behalf of this. He was a proponent of it. We're just trying to get some more residential there, even if it's apartment, because as you all know, we're going to soon have a big box that'll be empty. We have a gas station that's right there in the corner that'll be empty, and we're hoping to entice more development on 10th Street and not to have a big box sit empty that, especially with this project and knowing you're going to have, residential people there that'll frequent their establishments, and hopefully that'll be a draw. That was kind of I think that was the main things everything was hit on.
And while it wasn't part of the issue of changing of the zoning, they did kind of, pre-shadow what will be there, and the rents will be, I think they said the starting rents are just shy of $1,000. So these are high-end stainless steel appliances, granted, but those will be questions that we'll have to answer when they come with their development plan. But they did give a nice presentation of what they hope to have, and they were very nice.
How many apartments was it?
I believe he was quoting the 250 range, bust you.
245 was what they mentioned.
Just something for you is that, I would think that they would want to be here to answer any questions that
I
the
agree.
council might have. I would be okay with tabling it. I mean, does anybody have any serious questions for him? Holman's Lane is compacted, and when's the construction going to take place on that? On Holman's Lane? Does anybody know?
A hard date.
2 years.
Next year.
Next year.
Well, it was, and I can understand totally if people weren't on planning, wanted to table it, I think that would be okay, but I know that we grilled them. That was a pretty intensive, long grilling session in planning, and they had done a traffic study. I mean, they really had, hopefully everything is okay with whoever, because they really seem to have their act together. So I can totally understand if everybody wanted to table, but I know I was satisfied, and I was very much a critic of it when it first came in the door. So
it's also, I think, prudent to note that we're voting on the zoning change more so than the project, and I think the Plan Commission will have another opportunity to ask any additional questions when that development plan comes. This is a public hearing for 2016 OR 30. We'll open that now. If there's any member of the public who's here to speak for or against the project. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Maples, I wanted to ask your opinion.
I spoke to Councilperson Gill, and then Mr. Hawkins just gave some more insight on it. With the starting range of, as he said, $1,000, that area already has some apartments in it. I think if we were going to place more apartments in Jeffersonville, that may be a good place to do it. Then, branching out, I would support it. And I would make a motion to pass 2016 OR 30.
Second.
The motion and second to pass 2016 OR 30. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Merkley, 2016 OR 31. More rezoning.
This is another rezoning that came to you, I believe, with no recommendation, because I believe it was deadlocked with the Planning Commission. This is property that is located, if I remember, it is right off, that would not, let's see, it would be...
Allison Lane?
Allison Lane and Allison Lane, Middle Road. Allison Lane and Middle Road. There's only really two parts of the parcel that are road frontage. They were wanting to build a storage unit, Storage Express. They are asking that it be zoned from C1 to C3. For the record, I believe this came in front of the council 3 years ago.
Yes, it did.
And the petition to rezone was denied. So this is the identical plan, identical, I believe it's the same applicant, so. And is there someone from Storage Express here?
Les, is
We're
this the
batting-
same applicant? I
batting
think this was
1,000.
2013 when we denied this.
Yes, same applicant.
Okay.
I don't think it is.
It's not the same applicant?
No.
Okay, I misspoke.
It's not the same applicant, but it is the same type of project.
Yep.
It is the same zoning classification.
It looks like the applicant back then was Jesse Green, but I believe it was stated at the planning commission hearing that it was Storage Express back then, but I may be mistaken. But regardless, it was still a storage facility, self-storage buildings.
And I believe in 2013, when it came to the city council, it was voted down 8-0.
You know, and I'm just looking at the applicant here. I think to be, in all fairness, I'm looking here. Then the applicant stated intends to develop the subject property as one project containing 6 separate large self-storage buildings for storage of autos, boats, and RVs with 12-foot widths in varying depths with an aggregate of approximately 172 spaces. It's my understanding this development that's before you is just the basic Storage Express buildings that we see. There's one across from the police station. I think there's one across the north side. So, I mean, I believe that's what they're proposing. I think this was more of a RV auto type.
Well, I'm going to speak up because I'm disappointed this applicant's not here because I spoke against this mainly because of the property itself. It involves floodplain. It floods. There was a lot of, and being that it came with, no recommendation because it was I believe it was 3-3.
It was.
And once again, we don't have an applicant here, but my non-support of this stands.
Did everybody know to be here, I guess? I mean, this is a little odd to have 3 applicants not here. I mean,
Well, last time, I remember this very good because I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the neighborhoods surrounding that area were not in favor of that. And I think we spent $400,000 on the park across the street. The Q-Mart there has a lot of crime and has had a couple shootings. So in an effort to clean that area up, I don't think storage unit was, and I think that's why it was denied the first time. Maybe
In
might
reference
be
to
a little wrong, but
I think you're right. Now, in reference to the Q-Mart, we are in code enforcement litigation right now in reference to that.
so, I wouldn't be in favor of this, Lisa. I've talked to some of the neighbors and some of them sitting here in this room tonight, and couple emails and some Facebook messages where the people in District 6 are not excited about a storage unit going in that neighborhood, so.
And then, Josh, you remember when this was presented back then, because you were on it, there was also issues with, they had to stay so many feet away from that broadcast plate, and then there was an issue that involves a cell phone tower.
Yeah.
And he never spoke on any of that at the planning and zoning, it was clearly, they had to stay so many feet away from it, and, he did touch on part of the floodplain, but, you got a floodplain right there, Lake St. Creek, everybody knows how bad that floods. And there was no talk about elevating the property, there was no, so of course, we were in zoning, but, like I said, I'm standing strong on this non-support, especially since the applicant's not even here to present.
Well, I'll say that I am disappointed that they're not here, and because now it falls to me, I guess, to present the side that I was one of the people that voted for this, for the potential zoning change on planning. Because what sealed it for me, when they put the map up and overlaid it where the floodplain is, I don't see what will ever be in this location. And no one has contacted me. I represent that district. That's in my district. It's right at the edge. I'm really at a loss to know who around it. There really isn't anyone that is around it other than other businesses. It's only got a very small frontage to both Middle Road. I mean, we're talking like in the tens of feet on Middle Road and Allison Lane. If something was going to be developed there, they've had the chance has been there forever. This property has been, ever since I can remember riding my dirt bike in this property 30 years ago, it's had its chance. And now I see there's somebody who can put a substantial property there to get put on the tax rolls and not build in the floodplain. Part of it was about a third of the property appeared to be in the floodplain. So I thought if you were going to put a storage unit somewhere, that this would be it. And one further note, this same company, because of the bridge expansion, lost 2 of its facilities in Jeffersonville that serviced Jeffersonville. And they lost, and the number is probably wrong, 380 units between those 2 properties that were taken because of the bridge project. And this, what they're proposing, was about that same number. So Jeffersonville ends up with the same kind of number of storage unit facilities, but now they're just in a different location because they were taken in the project. And whether or not that should be a determining factor for anyone, of course, is up to them. But there's obviously a need for these, or they wouldn't be building.
I think some of the discussion from planning and zoning meeting that day, Les, and if you can remember this, was that it wasn't part of the master plan for Jeffersonville, and that storage units should probably go in an industrial type environment, not within a close proximity to neighborhoods. And that was recommended by the former planning and zoning director, Shane Corbin.
Well, and to add what Councilperson Hawkins stated, Storage Express owns the same facilities right by, I don't know what the address is, of Mr. Hutt's property right there in 62. Just last month, we approved an expansion for that and also for Storage Express that's further down 62. So they have getting more of they expanded what was already there. And there was 2 of their locations on 62 that was expanded just in the last couple months.
Well, then to me, that tells me that there's definitely a need for this project. The sun will still come up tomorrow, whether there's more storage units or not, but this property I cannot be seen possibly being used for anything else. I don't know who is going to buy that acreage with no road frontage and 1/3 of it in a floodplain. I just can't envision, perhaps I'm just not creative enough, I just can't envision anyone ever purchasing it, and in 30 years I can still say it looking exactly the way it looks now. But again, I find myself in the odd position of defending a project where the applicant is not present.
This is a public hearing.
And I will remind us the doors were locked. I was reminded that via text. And so hopefully we didn't have 3 applicants that came and tried the doors and walked away.
For the record, when I arrived shortly before 7 o'clock, the doors were locked, but we had a police officer, Officer Moreland, was out front.
Waving people in?
Yes,
Okay.
and I unlocked the doors.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I would like to make a comment to that. We always notify IT every Monday morning to unlock the doors.
My key fob wouldn't work either, so I was getting a little nervous, so.
Access denied.
Nathan, did the applicant, in this case, either contact you or you haven't heard?
I was going to open the public hearing.
I was just going to say, I too was contacted, possibly because I was at large. Okay, so, and the ones that contacted me, they stated what's pretty much been said, and they were not in favor. I had no one contact me in favor.
Same. This is a public hearing. Is anyone from the public here to speak for or against 2016 OR 31? Mr. Mayor.
Mike Moore, 803 East Court Avenue. I don't claim to be an expert on planning and zoning. But I can tell you, I've knocked on just about everybody's door in the city of Jeff. And you're talking about an area that my childhood was spent around. I know that area. That's why I took so much pride in the old gas station, the old Brownfields. Corner of Allison Lane and Middle Road was always an embarrassment. I'm going back to the 60s, the 70s, through the 80s. It was an area of the town nobody had any pride in. We still have a filling station on that corner that we're trying to get the owner to do something about. We've built a beautiful park there. There is a lot of pride back in the community surrounding that. Mike Zapp, who sits here, Richard Eklund and his wife who sit here, they've spent hours and hours and hours trying to maintain the intersection around that area as well as some of the streets around there. I know Virginia Peck has sent an email and copied all of the council members. I can assure you there are dozens of others. Whether you heard from them or not, that's not the debate. The debate is, this is a common sense question. Yes, they did lose their storage units when the bridge traffic, the new path came through. They were compensated very, very well for that. There have been other storage facilities built in its place. If you go up 62 past River Ridge, there are new storage units being constructed. You know, I personally, I had a business with storage units built right behind it. And maybe I'm taking it more personally, but I tell you, nothing good comes from a big slab of concrete, metal pole barns, no employees. You're going to get riffraff. You're going to get problems. You're going to have, I've seen homeless people sleeping in storage units. It's not a positive. We've generated some enthusiasm in that area. I'm asking you, do you really see anything positive and exciting about storage units? You know, that field that you remember riding your dirt bike, you probably got some good memories from riding your dirt bike through there. Not saying that's somebody's responsibility to have a field there, but it still served a purpose. It served the youth, gave you something to do. Storage units, we can do better than that. There's a reason why we created this master plan. There's a reason why you all meet twice a month. There's a reason we have these boards that try and beautify the city of Jeff. Let's not forget that because we can't think of something else that may possibly go there. We still need to have a plan. We need to plan for my kids and your kids and our grandkids. And settling on storage units is not a positive step for the city of Jeff. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Hutt?
Mike Hutt, 2123 East 10th Street. And as Lisa pointed out, I live right next to Storage Express. I've lived there for 16 years. They are the best neighbors to have. There's no barking dogs. There's no trash blown around. There's no loud music, no parties. It is there. It's quiet being next to the storage units. It could be a lot worse back in there. And the city will probably benefit from $25,000, $30,000 a year in property taxes on that if it is built. The downside is they may not be the most beautiful thing, but in that location, you're not going to get much back there as far as looks. And you all could require landscaping to make it look nicer. Just a positive note.
Is anyone else here to speak for or against? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion? And we would, regardless of how the council feels, we would need to motion in the affirmative to pass the ordinance. So, if there was a motion made. And if there's not a motion made, Mr. Lewis, does the ordinance die for lack of action?
Hang on.
Got to sign a number.
In anticipation of a vote, just to move this forward, and probably in anticipation of being voted down, I would guess, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, because it has to be an affirmative to pass ordinance 2016 OR, what's the number?
31.
31.
Second.
There's a motion and second to pass 2016 OR 31. Any further discussion?
Just a quick comment. I think there's worse uses of property than storage units. As Mr. Hutt had mentioned, I have storage units in my district, and I think they're good neighbors that look really nice as you drive by. It's not like it's that intrusive with a bunch of traffic or a bunch of noise. I'm not saying that this is a good fit for it, but I'm just saying it seems like we're beating up on storage units, and I don't think that that's really fair, because I have seen a lot worse uses. But with that, seeing that it does say a lot for me that the applicant doesn't even show up when there was it was not a favorable or unfavorable recommendation. So obviously, it's still the decision still hangs in the balance, and they didn't care enough to come here. So with that, I plan on voting no.
I would add that I'm not against storage units, but I'm going to be against this because it's going to be a C2 designation, basically surrounded all by C1 or residential, and that just isn't consistent. So, anything further? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Aye. Motion fails. Heather Metcalf, 2016 OR, I believe 32 now.
I don't get that.
An ordinance of additional appropriation.
It makes it easy. Here. They didn't have it.
Just one on this one. It is for the Thunder Fund for other supplies. We received some revenue from the vendors that we sold Coke to, and now we have to pay the bill to Coke. So it's basically a wash from the receipt that we received.
Make a motion to pass 2016 OR 32 in the first and second reading.
Second.
Motion and second to pass 2016 OR 32 on the first and second. Anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Number 5, Josh Rodriguez, appointment to Drainage Board, and then we need to appoint a new member of the Plan Commission.
I'd like to appoint Stacy Slaughter to the Drainage Board.
Stacy Slaughter.
Who's the individual that is no longer?
Abby Dobson.
Yes.
And while we're on that note, I just want to, as Scott's our Drainage Board attorney, and I spoke to Josh, letting him know that I was going to say this, that I just wanted to publicly thank Abby for her service. She wasn't politically affiliated in any way, but she really put the time in and spent a lot of time with myself and with Andy. She went out and looked at sites. I explained the different watersheds to her, and she took a lot of time in the claims because she's an accountant, and she picked that right up because a lot of times Grant Morton, because of travels and things, that he can't be there, so we finally had somebody, was reviewing all that. She put in a lot of extra time and did an excellent job, as Scott would agree. And I just...
Curious, did anyone talk to her as a courtesy to let her know?
Yeah, I sent an email, and also Steve Webb did call her.
Okay,
And I
for her sake, she should have the courtesy.
Yes. So I just wanted to publicly thank her for her service, and she understands that we all get our own appointment and all, and she thought, but it's nothing against, your appointment. I'm sure he'll do a wonderful job, but, we appoint citizens to these boards, and they put the time in, especially the extra time. I just think it's important that we appreciate that and thank her.
I would probably think.
Okay, and Mr. Rodriguez, is that a motion then?
Sure.
I'll second. Go ahead.
There's a motion and a second to appoint Stacy Slaughter to the Drainage Board in place of Abby Dobson. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And then we need to make a council appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board, and that appointment does need to be an elected or appointed official of the city.
I'd like to nominate Ed Z. He served on the board, and actually he's going to be our appointment again, but he stepped down graciously to allow another member to be on. And we're getting a lot of plans. Our meetings are lasting well into the wee hours, and it's a fast pace.
You might tell him that after.
But I'm sorry, Ed, we need you. We need somebody that really understands our codes and knows our ordinances very well, and it really will move things along having somebody there.
You got a motion and a second on the floor.
There is a motion and a second for Ed Z to go to the Plan Commission. Was there anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Thank you, Ed.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, I think. Shall see.
Council Attorney report. Are there any department heads that would like to speak? Public comment, was there any? There is none. Council comment, Mr. White.
No comment.
Mr. Zastani?
A question and a comment. The sound seems different in here. It seems a lot louder. Just curious what happened. Imagine if something changed.
I think we just had
We've been tweaking it and working on it, and
Can everybody hear in the back better? Yeah. Okay.
we've been...
That's what I think. I mean, it sounds good. But you can hear us talk more than we ever have. There's a little more echo. My comments, I guess, the past history with parks makes me focus on parks a little bit, so I just want to mention a couple things that stands out as I see or read in the paper or hear what's going on in parks. Parks Department gave away an asset worth probably $400,000 to a redevelopment department, and then redevelopment turns around and the Parks Department has a balance of $700,000. Redevelopment has a cash balance of tens of millions of dollars, so I don't understand that. And then redevelopment turns around and got a proposal out for a great project. I think that condos down there is a perfect project. I would definitely support that. And their minimum bid for that request for proposal is $175,000. I hope redevelopment considers giving some of that money back to Parks, because at the end of the day, Parks has to take the burden of the cost of any parks that are generated from redevelopment, because redevelopment can't pay for ongoing expenses, even in the parks that they create. Plus, you look at the circuit breakers. Circuit breakers were more than what we expected. It's going to be $467,000, I think, out of parks. So between giving away assets with $400,000 and losing $467,000, that's over $800,000 lost in parks. And in the meantime, Parks continues to sign contracts, which we don't see or approve. And we know just from previous years, those River Stage contracts and all the other contracts, they really add up. Okay? And at the end of the year, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, we need an additional appropriation, a couple $100,000 in order for it to happen. So I'm fearful that at the end of the day, we're still going to be in a bad place from the parks. And let me add one more thing. I know I saw in the paper that the park's considering adding a new park and kind of squeezing one in a location I think that is not a great location. I hope that that's discussed further, because that location would be near a highway and across the railroad tracks from all the residents, which that doesn't seem to make sense. Plus, with the reduction in the circuit breakers and the reduction in the assets, I don't know where the cash would come from to buy the park or lease the park or maintain the park after the case. So I just want to, again, share my concern with the Parks Department. Thanks.
Mr. Maples?
Only comment I have is we successfully pulled off another thunder over Louisville. I'd like to thank all the city employees. I know a lot of them worked a lot of extra hours. I talked to some police officers and firefighters that pulled 16-hour shifts, along with everybody else in the city of Jeff, and I just wanted to thank them for making another great event.
Ms. Gill?
I just want to bring to the council's attention, I had a meeting with the police administration this morning, and just to give you a heads up, they will be coming before us in June. They're going to be needing an additional appropriation on their overtime. And a lot of that is due to the thunder. I told them just, have their figures and everything ready. And get back to, with parks, they have that benefit of the sponsorship to offset their budget. But we're adding more and more venues around the city, and that requires security. So I'm thinking we may have to have that, have a discussion to kind of address that in some way, maybe, I don't know, I don't know, I just know between, a lot of these events are requiring, which I am a strong advocate, and they do an awesome job, but we have the bike patrol, river patrol, we just have more events that's requiring more of a police presence, and I, for one, know that when you're down in Thunder and you're down at these different events, the public like to see our police officers there at these different venues, but it is putting a strain on their OT. So I just want to give everybody a heads up on that. And I also want to see too, if, Matt, I know as president you kind of wanted to change the way that the finance committees work, but maybe some of these things we can address, see the breakdown, try to get our minds wrapped around some of this stuff, especially since we were hit so hard with that circuit breaker. So I appreciate you taking that under consideration. And then I too wanted to thank everybody for Thunder, because being going down there and seeing it, everything is very well organized. As soon as there was a lost child, I mean, it was handled. I was there, my mother got hysterical. There was immediate police officers right there to handle that. The children were found. So it was a very good event, and just wanted to remind everybody to please go out and vote tomorrow.
Is that all? So. Mr. Hawkins? Yeah, my only comment was to thank the city employees who took part in Thunder. It's been a long time since I've heard a negative word about the way anything down there has transpired, and with that many people, I think that's just an amazing testament to our city. And then as well, I'd like to get everybody, as the government teacher on board, everybody should vote, do your civic duty tomorrow, and go vote. Thanks.
Mr. Samian?
As Lisa was talking, it just made me think, we have someone that is raising sponsorships for all our events, and I don't think we've considered part of the cost of the event to be our security or our overtime. And I'm sure that he's putting that package together, if we could get with our chiefs, maybe police and fire, whoever needs to be part of that, street department too, because they do cleanup. If we could get a cost factor for each event, the larger the event, the larger the cost, and just have him roll that into the cost of the total production, and as he's selling sponsorships, maybe we can draw some money back from that. I don't know. It's just an idea, and I'll try to pass that on. But
Hey, Nathan, can I just right on that for a second? I know at one time we talked about doing a non-reverting fund, so we can't capture that from the sponsorship, the partnership program, and then be able to allocate the money, if there is outside of parks or outside of the normal expenses. 'Cause I think right now it's just going to the general parks fund to be used for general parks,
right.
But there are other expenses, as you mentioned, that do occur.
yeah, well, that's a great idea. Also thank uniformed officer Moreland for being here, protecting us, and I guess undercover Jackson. Appreciate them. Oh, he's not working.
You don't notice them in that orange.
You just blew his
Oh, we don't. I'm sorry.
You do know the way undercover works, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just happy he's here. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, and that's all I have.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I don't have anything, thank you.
I was going to say the same about Thunder. Thanks to everyone who made that a success. That there's months and months of planning that goes into that the public never sees. And, it is quite a feat. We also need to, as a council, establish a committee to handle our contract negotiations with the police and fire unions. We had kind of talked about, myself and the leaders of the respective unions talked about waiting until after Thunder was through to start those processes, and that time is here. So if I think we should go ahead and at least name a committee amongst ourselves so that we can start those discussions and be able to move forward. So are there any volunteers?
I volunteer.
Mr. White? Ms. Gill?
How many are,
We would do 4.
and what's the time frame?
That is the question.
I'll volunteer.
I could have sworn Mr. Hawkins said he'd be interested in that.
I think I remember that too.
That's a good
I kept that in there.
And the reason why I asked about the time frame is because I represent Greater Clark County Schools, and our negotiation window is getting ready to open. So that's why I asked about the time frame, because I don't want to do both at the same time.
But yours shouldn't last very long, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're snapped. It's like one meeting. Don't worry about it.
How could we, as a city, not take advantage of that experience you have?
Oh, well,
I agree.
yeah.
Come on, I agree.
Yeah, good thing we're not putting it to a vote.
Well, actually.
Did you hear Scotty?
So I have Mr. White, Mr. Maples, Ms. Gill, and Mr. Hawkins.
You can,
And Nathan's breathing a sigh of
you can put
relief.
me down, but I do know that I may be removing myself. If they are overlapped, that would just be too much. But I will go ahead and put myself.
Okay.
And you each owe me a dinner.
Mr. Samuel, you want to,
I'll make that motion.
oh, you're going to make the motion?
Yeah.
He's happy, he's smiling.
I'll second that motion.
Ed is so happy too.
So we have a motion and a second to make a bargaining committee on behalf of the city council, Mr. White, Mr. Maples, Ms. Gill, and Mr. Hawkins. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. I don't think I have anything else. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Did you put your